hundreds very soon.
So I click on go live, and we should be live from now. Welcome everyone from home. If you are following us on YouTube, this is the Criticae 2022-2023 final year presentation, hosted by me, which is Rocco from PhMuseum, Giuseppe.
Hi guys, this is Giuseppe.
And
I'm
Laura.
the director. Rocco is the curator and director of the education program. And
we also have Laura, which is the head professor for this second edition of the Masterclass, together with the 8 participants of this year. Soon we're going to discover all the projects which have been developed during the past 8 long months, very exciting projects. Each of the participants will present their work in about 10 minutes, so you are free to drop a line in the chat if you have any question. I will report your question to them. I want to say also that the new edition of the Masterclass has just opened, which will feature Laura El-Tantawy again as a head professor, together with Max Pinkers. This will be a new version of the Masterclass, which can give you a double opportunity with 2 great artists and photographers. So I will share the link in the chat so for you to check it out, but I won't wait any longer because today is the day for the second edition. So I'll leave the word to Laura. And again, welcome everyone, and good luck for the presentation to all the participants.
Thank you, Rocco, and thank you, Giuseppe. I'm really here and very excited to be here. I feel almost like a proud mama in a way. I've been working with everyone here for the last 8 months. It's been challenging, but I think for the most part, it's been about stimulation, inspiration, and growth. And I think this is really the true value of any educational experience, is how far you grow and how far you develop in your practice, but also the support system and the community that you build. And I really feel that with this particular group, it was one of the most dedicated groups that I've ever worked with, a group that's really positively charged, a group that wants to move forward, and a group that is really supportive of each other. So I'm very proud of the group, and I'm very excited with this showcase. Very happy to be working with PhMuseum. I've known them since the very beginning, and it's been really good to see how the community has grown, but also to participate with you guys and collaborate. I should say that for everyone that's joining us on the live stream, thank you for being with us. We'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love for you to post questions also to our authors. You could do that in the chat room, or I think there's a mechanism to do that. So, you know, you can ask questions about the projects you see, about the program itself, whatever, really, we're here for that. And yeah, I think that's it for me. I'll leave it over to the authors from here. Thank you.
So the first one to present will be Paula Faraco.
Hi, can you listen?
Yes.
Yeah. I will share my screen. Do you see it? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So, my name is Paula. I'm from Brazil, and I'm currently based in São Paulo. I have a degree in journalism, and before the pandemic, I used to live in Berlin, Germany for 12 years, where I studied photography. My first education was journalism, and I think I managed in this project to combine journalism and photography. The year 2020 was crazy for all of us. I decided to stay with my mom in Brazil, and that influenced a lot on my work. Being back home made me reflect upon all the social issues in society, and I was struck by the numbers and statistics around the issue of femicide. The project I developed throughout this masterclass is focused on this dichotomy, love and violence. Femicide is a gender-related issue. Violence against women, especially the violence towards a partner and ex-partner, are my focus on this project. The main idea of this work is to show how men claim they love, yet committing a crime. I will show you now some of my ongoing research. I believe this topic will continue to be part of my practice for many years still. The images and texts I used are mainly archival I found online on articles from online newspapers. So, the title of the project is What is Love? What is love? Is an attempt to create a relation between love, power, and masculinity. These three subjects have been intertwined since society started building itself. In my opinion, this makes sense when we reflect upon how and why the concepts of masculinity, femininity, maternity, marriage were constructed. Since it is the woman who gives birth, she got the responsibilities to stay at home and bear the children, future workers, while the man, her husband, would go to work. For her, it was agreed that she would be considered the natural nursing, the natural caretaker, whereas for the men, it was given the power, the knowledge, the science, and sex. Today, however, women are supposed to be free. I say free because we know that women are not. The type of society I started describing was based in Europe, and it was the model for the Western world. This project, though, isn't about Europeans, but about Brazilian society. Since I come from Brazil, it is important to me to show how the construction of masculinity with patriarchal and sexist values based on domination have created an impact in the lives of women. Modern feminism appeared and showed us how this biological difference between men and women have nothing of natural. For this project, I focused my research on femicide committed by a partner or an ex-partner, as I said. By not recognizing women as subjects of rights inherent to their dignity, men kill women simply because they are women. Either rich or poor, femicide have been occurring in different levels of society, as well as rape, domestic violence. But what is this love? The kind of love they claim they feel, yet they end up killing their loved ones. These women they claim they love are sometimes an ex-partner who moved on with their lives after the breakup, or sometimes they are their wives who did something which affects the man's honor. Jealousy, possessiveness, and controlling over someone else's body isn't love. So I talk a bit about the Brazil perspective. In Brazil, the sentence of femicide, the crime sentence of femicide, was incorporated into the penal code as a qualifier for the crime of homicide in 2015. Thus, the definition given by the law number 13104, 2015, considers femicide a specific type of intentional homicide whose motivation is related to the context of domestic violence or contempt for the women. In 2019, 1,246 homicides of women in homes were recorded, which represents 33.3% of the total number of violent deaths of women recorded. This percentage is close to the proportion of femicides in relation to the total number of female homicides recorded by the civil police in the same year. So here we have some articles online. I got it from 2020, saying that in 2019, there were 1,325 femicides in Brazil when a woman is killed because of her gender. In 2022, here on the down one woman is killed every 6 hours. So here you see I collected a bit of some kind of almost like a police kind of work. I have the women here, and I have some texts which gives me base. Here's the article from the women from the murder. So Leticia was approached by Marinésio at a bus stop. She was on her way to work on the esplanade of the ministry when she decided to get into the man's car who identified himself as a hired transport driver. After the arrest, the police began to investigate other crimes that would have been committed in Brasilia, also inside the silver truck he used. So here's another one. When emotions are pushed aside, seen as a sign of weakness, and anger is translated into a performance of violence. And here again, we have another murder. So this is an old murder from the 70s. She was a famous socialite, like a celebrity. Here you can also see, already separated, she began a relationship with businessman Raul Fernando do Amaral Street, known as Doca, who was extremely jealous, according to many of those who knew the couple. The two spent New Year's Eve in Búzios. On December 30, Angela Diniz was shot 4 times by Doca in a house on Praia dos Ossos, in the beach region of Rio de Janeiro. Despite being a confessed defendant, Doca ended up becoming a victim as his defense attorneys alleged a crime against honor. The murder of Angela Diniz was one of the first famous cases of femicide in Brazil. And here I got also from online a letter from a guy, and he says, Marisa, I killed you because I love you. Go with God, my dear. Marisa was the dearest woman in my life. Go with God, my love. So I try to bring evidence of how men claim they love these women, yet they kill them. So I remember when I was a child that my mom used to explain behaviors of my father, saying like, he loves you too much, that's why he does these things. I've lost count of how many times I've heard my mother telling me this sentence, giving excuses for my father's behavior, for his psychological nightmare he created in our home. So I tried to connect a bit of my past with these women. And this one is a special case for me because I found a letter written by the killer to her family. So this is like a 10-page letter where he describes how they got to know each other and how irritated he was, angry, jealous from all the events that happened throughout a couple of years. And then he ends up saying like, he's giving her back to her parents. You know, he says, I'm sorry for giving her back to her parents the way he's giving, you know, after killing her. This is another example because in Brazil, it's very hard to find now the process, like in the court, because it's everything closed up. You cannot see them. But I found this, a friend of mine helped me to find the process, like it's 600 pages of inquiry from the police. So this is her image. She was first declared missing by her family and friends, and then here is all the inquiry, the police inquiry, and then afterwards it comes the newspaper article where this is the place where they found her body. So I try to combine a little bit of, you know, do this like not chronological line, but still trying to make some sense. This is, I grabbed just a piece, like some part of the inquiry. You can actually see it. I just got 10 pages, otherwise it would be too much. So I forgot to say that I was thinking with this project, I thought about doing an exhibition, not a book. I think I wouldn't have enough material yet to do the book. So I found this from a book, those sentences, like what they said, what the killer said when they killed these women, like, I killed for love, I killed to defend my honor. They repeat themselves over and over again throughout all the cases. I killed her because I loved her so much. I killed her under strong emotion, which was before the crime of passion in Brazil. Femicide was called that before. She wanted to leave me, so I killed her. She was my woman. And then I got some faces that I blew up on the Photoshop, and I tried to make them transparent. And then I created these veils. I printed 6. I would like to print the rest still for the show. So I printed some 6 images, and I took the transparency, and then I embroidered some texts. I did these 3. I would like to do more throughout the next months. This you can see the 3 separate, this together. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Paula. Thank you so much. It's really great to see how this work has evolved in the past few months. I know you've gone through quite a journey thinking about how you're going to conceive it. And I think today, what I really felt is you had quite a forensic approach to it. It's almost like looking through a police file, which I felt very interesting, actually, because I think looking at it that way really leaves it to allows the stories to come to the surface. But then there's still the ideas of, you know, love being used as an excuse to kill the women. And, you know, this idea of being possessive of someone so much to the point that you think the best thing is to kind of take their own life because you don't want them to be with anybody else. But I also wanted to ask you about your sort of the decision making that you made, you know, from sort of researching and collecting these images to the idea of printing them on these banners. How did you get to that, and why did you decide to blur the images and not show them in full scale?
Because I think it's about it's about silence. It's about their death. You know, it's about erasing someone's lives. So I think you can see they are actually hanging here. You can see them, but you don't really see them, you know, like they are there, but they are not there. It's not about showing completely their faces, but I think it's about giving a hint of who they were and how many they are, you know. And I wanted to write it on, so to do the embroidery. So I decided, to relate to this erasing of eraseness. I don't know, my English is a bit, you know, that, someone silenced these women, you know. No, I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. You answered it really well. Thank you so much. This was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
The second presenter for today is Danny in Art DMT. Please welcome Danny.
My name is DMT, aka Danny, and I am a documentary and portrait photographer from South Africa. Today, I am sharing my project Holiday, the majority of which I developed under the guidance of Laura and with thanks to PhMuseum in Morocco. Shot on my grandfather's camera in black and white 35mm film, Holiday narrates the experience of recovery from post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, in the aftermath of 2 interactions with death. It features 5 family members as the main subjects, enacting night terrors and flashbacks, isolation and ideation, as well as moments of comfort and beauty. It is photography, not as an answer or a question, but as a place to go when the world is otherwise loud. I will introduce this project to you through the photos themselves, a note written after the incidents that inspired the series, and the poem. So, without further ado. My life's work goes to Felix. Perdón. My life's work goes to Felix with perdón. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Hi. I am having some technical issues. I will just switch over to another computer and then I will be back. Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe we move on to the next one and then we go back to Danny, if that's okay with you, Danny. Yeah, no problem. Beauty of being live.
Live and online.
Yeah, and online. So the next one will be Lisa Winner. Please welcome, Lisa.
Hi. I thought I had another 10 minutes, so okay. No problem. Hi, I'm Lisa Winner. I'm a photographer based out of Northern California. And my presentation today is a little bit different, I think, than most others. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
I'm going to say
Yes.
okay. Thank you. So I actually spent the first half of this documentary class working on a different project. And then midway through, due to a series of events, I wasn't able to continue it. But I'm really proud of the images that came from that project. So I just wanted to take a quick moment and share them with you. My original story was about a female farmer here in Northern California who was one of the first in the country to produce buffalo mozzarella, which is apparently very difficult to farm. And she and her husband at the time started this farm and got together a herd of cows and figured out how to sustainably create this buffalo mozzarella cheese, which was absolutely delicious. And so I went and profiled her for a little bit, but then she ended up losing her farm, and then the weather conditions here deteriorated to the point where I just wasn't able to continue with the project. So here are a few of the images from the project, and now I will share with you when I ended up finishing my time here with the PhMuseum. So the project that I'm going to review with you today is a very personal project for me called Colorism in America. After my project with Romini mozzarella couldn't continue, I had to think long and hard about something that I wanted to work on that resonated deeply with me. I chose this project because not only my own personal roots and association with this topic, but also because I feel like it's something that isn't discussed broadly across the United States. I'll get into a little bit more now. So what is colorism exactly? Wikipedia defines colorism as discrimination based on skin tone, in which different people with similar ethnic traits are treated differently due to the social implications that come with cultural meanings attached to skin tone. I think most of us think about the term racism as a broader sect of discriminating against different social groups. Colorism is actually more nuanced and really looks within those social groups and the various skin tones that exist and how they present in today's society. Lighter skin tones across the board are deemed preferable in almost every culture. So much so that the beauty industry has essentially capitalized on this phenomenon, and their skin lightening products are expected to reach 8.9 billion in sales by next year. So for me, how this translates is I am considered white passing. I am Puerto Rican. Both my parents are Puerto Rican, grandparents. I come from a long line of ancestors who descended from Spain, as well as indigenous people from Puerto Rico. But yet I am very light skin toned. You would never know I was Puerto Rican unless I told you. And the term white passing, which I think is a colloquialism that is very particular to the United States, was really coined during the late 19th century. And it was essentially referred to African Americans who utilized their lighter skin tone in order to assume the privilege of whiteness. So if you think about the slave trade that came from Africa, you know, and the variety of people and how they looked, people of lighter skin tones experienced life differently here. Now the term white passing is used across all broad spectrum, whether you're Black, Hispanic, Asian, and is used to include all those who identify as a person of color, but who are perceived as white due to their lighter skin tone. And that's me, essentially. It's also frequently observed among members of the same ethnic or racial groups. A sociologist once wrote that lighter skinned people sometimes struggle with issues around identity, like not feeling Black enough or being ostracized by other people of color, including their own families, because of their complexion. It's more the social, emotional, psychological components of group membership that are difficult for lighter skinned people. And that's exactly my story. I'll get into it a little bit more here, but you know, as somebody who identifies as Puerto Rican and wants to feel included in a community, it's been very difficult for me because just based on how I look and because I don't speak fluent Spanish, I don't automatically get included in those social circles. This is a picture of my daughter with my family, my grandparents, and then those are my two parents there. As I said, I struggle to identify with my ethnic group. People often ask me whenever I meet Hispanics, how did I learn Spanish? Why is my accent so good? When opportunities arise that indicate for people of color, I feel guilt and I struggle to decide whether or not I'm going to put myself in that position to apply for the opportunity because I'm technically not a person of color because of the color of my skin. And so I feel I straddle a fine line there as person of color versus not. And the reason why this is important is because many Hispanic adults, especially here in the United States, perceive as having a darker skin tone as hurting their ability to get ahead. You know, we have a large migrant population from Mexico and Central and South America. Those with darker skin tones tend to be relegated to, you know, menial jobs, farm workers. Those with lighter skin tones have a better opportunity to get ahead. And that has been recorded, you know, with facts and surveys. Just a little bit of brief history about me. This is my mother, Maryam. She was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1943. And then my father was born in Juana Díaz, Puerto Rico in 1941. And when he was 10, his mother took him and his sister to New York for quote unquote better life. Growing up in the 50s in New York was tough for Puerto Ricans. If you've ever seen the movie West Side Story, it's actually very accurate. Many of the European immigrants really had no desire for Puerto Ricans to be there. There was a large influx at that time. Racial slurs, bullying, violence, and cultural disdain was everywhere. European immigrants, even though they were immigrants themselves, they were lighter skinned, and they believed that those with darker skin didn't belong in their town. In the 70s, my parents moved from New York to Miami, Florida, to get away from all of that. If you know anything about Miami, you'll know that it is a cultural center for the Hispanic community, majority being Cubans. After the Cuban Revolution of 1959, there was a large influx of Cubans from Cuba to Miami well into the 80s. And so at that time, 36% of the population of Miami was Hispanic. So my parents felt like they would fit in better there and have more of a community. And then I was born, Lisa Estrella Morales, in Miami, Florida, in April of 1978. That's me. My mother moved my grandparents down from New York shortly thereafter, Alfredo and Carmen, to help care for me because my parents got divorced shortly thereafter. I loved my grandparents, but I really loved my grandfather. He used to spend a ton of time with me, and he would take me to and from school, and he would ride me around on his bike. He was a really kind man. However, what I learned about Grandpa shortly thereafter is that he hated Puerto Ricans. He was actually extremely racist against Hispanics. He wanted nothing to do with the culture or the language. I actually never heard him speak Spanish unless he was arguing with my grandmother. He believed that his light colored eyes and his lighter skin tone essentially made him white passing, and he was okay with it. I just have vague memories of him just talking so disdainfully about the Cubans in the area and how they were loud and obnoxious and lesser than. And he really wanted to differentiate himself from them. And, you know, my mother really didn't do anything to dispel that. She really wanted to make sure that I assimilated into white American culture. She also didn't speak Spanish to me at home. My father and my grandmother, who were both proud Puerto Ricans, they spoke Spanish to me and are the reason why I know the Spanish that I do. If it was really left up to my father and my mother, I would have been white immediately, and then that would have been the end of it. In 1986, my mother got her wish, and we moved to white America in a little town outside of Georgia called Marietta, with a population of 30,000. I was 8 years old. And this is a quick anecdote from that time. When I was younger, especially in Hispanic culture, you dressed up for parties. And I remember specifically the first time I was invited to a birthday party. I was in the 3rd grade, and this little girl named Stacy had a party, and I wanted to dress up for my new friends, and I put on my fanciest dress, excited to share with them. And I remember pulling up to the house and seeing all these kids run around in t-shirts and shorts, like clothes that you would wear every day to school. And here I was in this fancy dress, and I was so embarrassed. And I didn't understand why they weren't dressed up, but I also knew at that time that there was a difference. That was the first time I realized that these kids may look like me, but they actually weren't like me. As I quickly grew up in white America, I lost any connection I had to being Puerto Rican or any part of my heritage. The only person in my life who ensured that I never forgot was my father. He was a proud Puerto Rican his whole life until the end, when he passed away last year. Now that he's gone, it's my job now to continually explore my heritage and pass on this familial legacy to my children and my children's children. So this project will continue throughout the summer. It's actually been picked up by a magazine and will be published in the winter, and has been funded in order to expand the story beyond myself. So I've started interviewing other people, and I have a list of, I've lost my words. I want to say candidates, but that's not the right word. A list of people that I will be including in this project. What I've shown you here today is kind of an example of my own story, but the plan is to create vignettes around everybody's different experiences with racial identity and their skin tone, whether they are Black, Hispanic, or Asian. And here are some quotes that I've received so far in having conversations with people. My family used to openly prefer my brother over me because he is darker skin toned. Because my skin makes me white passing to most people, it feels odd that no one knows I'm also Indian upon meeting me. It's also been a source of feeling a bit disconnected from my Indian roots. My entire life has been living in 3 cultures, not white enough in suburbia, not Latina enough for Latinos. To my Mexican family, I'm very Puerto Rican, and to my Puerto Rican side, I'm very Mexican. So the goal is to have all of these stories completed by the time the show opens in November, so that there are other people to be featured. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. Well, I feel like you've sort of guided me through your family album in a way with all these stories. It was quite emotional, but I think what I really like is you've gone from the extreme of like metaphorically looking outside the window with the series you did on the buffalo mozzarella to looking in the mirror directly at your own story and where it's going. So how do you see this manifesting like in the next few months? What's the vision for it? And I know you talked about it a little bit, but specifically the images, how do you see it coming together?
Well, I think, you know, for people, it will be a little bit different depending on what their story is, but I do anticipate environmental portraits, but also really incorporating, you know, artifacts and things that are important to them from their family history. I have some ideas, like the woman that is Indian, she's going to dress in traditional Indian wear with a sari, and we will do some photographs of her in that. It's really gonna depend on the individual, but in my mind's eye, I see these beautiful environmental portraits in color that kind of show the various skin tones as well as people's various different like cultural affiliations.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Something we forgot to mention at the beginning is actually that all the participants we're gonna see today will be exhibited at PhMuseum Lab in late November. This is part of the, let's say, the experience that they get to acquire through the masterclass, and thanks to the joint effort with Laura and Giuseppe, we understood that most of the projects were on a similar note in terms of very personal narratives. So we decided to award the exhibition prize to the full class and have a collective show opening in our space in Bologna in late November. So that's why maybe most of the participants will mention things about the show. That's to give someone that is following us from home a bit more of a context.
There is always a good excuse to come to Bologna.
So if Danny has joined back, yes, maybe we can try again to go through the presentation.
I'm here. I'm back.
Thank you.
As a recap, my project is Holiday, and it is about the experience of recovery from post-traumatic stress disorder. I will let the photos speak, though. Sorry. 1 moment. My life's work goes to Felix, with no obligation to develop it, to translate unseen or unshown works to the public, or to spend time upon it. The camera is not mine to give, but please tell grandfather that if he would want to give Rollo to Felix, it would be well loved and see many days of shooting film. Felix, you have been my joy. You have been the light of my life, my companion. I'd like to give Mad King to Gustav, along with my book collection, my drawing pens, and any visual works you'd like. I believe in you. I care for you. I love you. My brother Christian can use my words and voice notes as long as he publicly acknowledges the original formal intent. Tell him he gets to live a soft life, that I'm hoping to listen to his music from another dimension, but also that this is not what defined him to me, merely the art I found most comforting of him. My mother, Janita, can have any clothes of mine she wants, and the work plurals. Please give her my stuffed toy, Christmas, and tell her I wish her comfort from pain. I wanted a happier world for her. I want to joy her well, away. Tell her she is more important than what she can or cannot do. Tell her she deserves to be loved. To my father, please return the small wooden writing desk. He preferred ideas to things. Tell him I hope he writes that book in time and sees some morphos. I do not have much to give, so what I give can never be a measure of my love. Give my grandparents what they would want, though I'm mindful they no longer collect items. Please scatter my ashes in Harold's Bay, or whatever is easiest. I wouldn't want a ceremony. I liked to keep things as simple as complexity allowed. I've never liked funerals. I love all of you immensely much. In my work, you will find complexity and the expression of my emotions. They were no truer than any love or affection I showed, but rather more vulnerable and confusing. I was hoping to make peace with life by working through it, but some of the work may still be too much. There is no me you didn't know. There are just worlds within me I could not hold together easily. I wanted to give so much more. No, you've been loved. Holy day is questioning the safety of the world from the corner of your room while tracing sunlight upon your walls. Is the puzzles that do not ask to be solved but require you to swallow their pieces instead. Is every hurt body crawling in a night terror reanimated into whoever stands before you? And yet the petals beneath your feet are yellow, one of your favorite colors, and in it you find yourself. Holy day is flinching at every harshly said F and losing friends to the silences of not relating to their lives. Is yogurt cups instead of meals and days that roll by hourlessly, staying still like the marble of dread stuck on your tongue. Holy day is glass, shattered glass, and glass light shines through. Is the wreck and the car, the flame and the spark, and everything that tells you you're still here. But there are losses you have no graves for, and injuries without epitaph. Holy day is the bubble of everything interesting, and it bursts into your sky. Suddenly the air feels bigger and better and calls to be breathed beneath the sharp intakes of a panic attack. There is joy. And what is grief without hysteria? Belonging without presence, and holiness without the everyday. Holy day is my grief-struck love letter to photography amidst a loudness I cannot tame. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danny. Are you done? I feel like
I'm done.
Are you sure? Wow, I feel like I was transported to a different realm there. I had goosebumps. I feel like the power of words and imagery is something that's very important in your narrative. And I wonder if you can elaborate and expand on that. Why is it important for you that the two come together? And do you see this work existing in separate layers, that the images tell a story and the words are basically separate, not married together?
Well, I'm multidisciplinary, so I am a poet as well. And I feel there are so many different ways you can express a story. And while the photos themselves, I feel like they talk a lot, I also wanted to add this personal vulnerability and this personal narration that goes back to what inspired the series, which is these two traumatic incidents that happened one February. And that's where words come in. They are a bridge, I guess.
Thank you, Danny. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Danny. Well done. Yeah, we can go to the next presentation. The next is Sandra. So, welcome, Sandra.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sandra. I'm a French national and based in Switzerland. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So my name is Sandra. I'm a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a great aunt, a godmother, a friend. Before becoming a photographer, I have been a young manager, a businesswoman, an interior designer, an expat. I lived in France, Italy, Switzerland, Singapore, and Japan. And I'm now at a turning point in my life in which I'm facing major disruptions within my family regarding memory and identity. As a photographer, I'm thus working on a project called We Are What They Remember. With this journey, I want to talk about my relationship to memory, to transmission, to identity. That's why, as a first step in this quest, I've chosen to dive in the past of my mother's family, as so little was transmitted to us. It is also a way to keep a link, a dialogue with her. What I'm going to document and share in this first chapter is a visual path through the places I discovered, walking in the footsteps of my ancestors to better understand our family heritage, which has been buried with the exile from Egypt. This selection of pictures I took those past 6 months is aimed to be included, among others, in a book or exhibitions, and include multi-layers, layouts in which I play with past and present. As a matter of fact, my mother, who is now losing her memory, is a granddaughter and grandniece of the founders of the Sennawi stores in Cairo at the beginning of the 20th century, equivalent of Galeries Lafayette or Harrods. She lived in Egypt in this family of Syrian origin, of Christian faith, until her wedding. For more than 70 years, the Sennawi have been an important name and presence in Egypt, thanks to what they have built, but also thanks to their generosity. My mother married my father, a French national, and left for France at the same time that her family was totally expropriated in 1961. For 3 years now, I've been documenting the cultural memory and gathering documents, books, articles, photos, films, biographies about the Sennawi. And last autumn, I finally went to Cairo. It became my field. I found so much, but more than anything, I wanted to understand if the name Sennawi was still meaning something in Egypt. I wanted to find this part of me which I didn't know. I went to what was their home, and I wasn't let in. It was situated in Garden City, close to the Nile, a place that my grandfather, who loved photography, captured with lyricism. The Nile was still there, present, strong, mythical. So was their house, now a storage for the near Kempinski Hotel. My uncle Selim, who was a great pianist, sometimes in the 90s, managed to have the house given back to the family and sold it. While walking inside the empty house, he couldn't imagine a future in it. He felt out of place, disoriented.
Ici en Égypte, je suis considéré comme chami, syrien. Au Liban, je suis considéré égyptien. En Europe, je suis considéré arabe. Qu'est-ce que je suis finalement? À la fin, je me suis dit, je ne me pose plus de questions. Je suis Selim Sennawi. Tout le reste, c'est des étiquettes qu'on met sur nous. Et puis c'est tout, y compris mon nom d'ailleurs. C'est une étiquette, mais il faut bien que ce soit quelque chose aussi. Voilà, je suis moi.
It was probably better not to be let in. Then I went to what was their main store. at Katzindar Square, as it is today, messy and lively. And there I have been welcomed. The past was still there, in some way untouched in its greatness. The metaphoric parallel between the places I discovered and my mother's memory degradation became obvious. I was shooting the old and the new, the past and the present together. But I was clearly looked at as an outsider. I also decided to go to Alexandria. That's where they had their summer residence. There also, under the bright sun, in the street now called Syria Street, remained the house of my great-uncle Joseph Senawi Pasha, now property of the government and lost in the middle of concrete. And the beach nearby, now looking at the motorway and the Stanley Bridge. Despite the oppression of the buildings and the lost vibe of the city, Alexandria keeps this special atmosphere which made me feel the life they lived there. Back to Cairo, I went to what was their school, their church, their movie theater, their offices, their hospital, their cemetery, and I met people, guardians of memory. The way they welcomed me as a Senawi member gave me this feeling of belonging, made me wonder why I didn't come earlier. Thanks to Mohammed, I entered the open-air cinema in the street called the Senawi Passage. There were no tickets on sale anymore. And inside, a sunny landfill. I imagine I could see here scenes of the past, from a bygone era in which my ancestors were the actors. Scenes from a large family who earned, thanks to their actions, a privileged place in this country. It was a society of which Egyptians I've met are proud and sometimes nostalgic. I would love to be able to make this place live again, sharing in this hidden theater the history of the family. This being probably impossible, the opportunity to use this picture as an exhibition support for my images and the showing of archives is now one of my goals. As symbols of my photographic work in this project, the dust, the oversight, the degradation, the improbable existence of this place give rise to wistful inspiration and strong emotions. Going in the projection room, looking one way or the other, the past was always there. Mohammed, the guardian, said, "This place is called Cinema al-Nasser," that means victory. At the Senawi hospital close by, I was not let in. So I went on the roof of the former Senawi building close to the hospital in order to capture it. The hospital was funded by the family in the 40s and was aimed to provide care to people who couldn't afford it. This building, on the roof of which I went, is located on Gomoreya Street and was the property of my grandfather. Today, on this roof, lives Ashraf, former assistant of the famous Egyptian singer Mohammed Munir. Ashraf lives surrounded by memories. He played a song and offered me a gift. He said, "I will organize the meeting with Mohammed Munir for you." Then I went to the church where Maher, the sacristan, welcomed me. My parents get married there in St. Mary of Peace in Garden City in 1961. Maher spent hours with me, showing me treasures, sharing so much. He said, "Those crowns, this napkin was the one used for the wedding of your parents." Finally, I went to the cemetery, the Greek Catholic cemetery, which is hidden in the Cop district, and where you find on the tombs the names of those most important Melkite families who were living in Egypt during the first half of the 20th century. Azmi said, if it was not for the Senawi, this cemetery would have been destroyed. Nobody comes anymore. Walking in the alleys was so serene, so peaceful, out of time. I saw signs of history and abandonment in every detail. But entering the tomb was not possible. The door is broken. I could only read through the door the names of the family members buried here. Should I do something? We are the fruits of a rich, troubled, exiled, mixed family history. We are what they gave and didn't give to us. We are what they made. We are what they lost. We are what they are remembered for. We are what they remember. Cairo could have been my home. That's probably where and when I decided along this photographic journey to start writing. Every day, write about the present and the past. Choose a memory and choose an idea, a joy, a sadness of the past moment. I want to be able to read, reread, transmit, tell, live. It's about fighting nostalgia, leaving a trace, understanding what touches me. Reading is such a source of richness that I can't help but give my share. To not lose my memory, to remember while there is time, to record everything, the present and the past, as far as I can remember. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. It's really, really lovely to hear you again go through that journey. I actually have two questions for you. The first one is, I know that you had a lot of challenges with the idea of wanting to go places, but the door was always metaphorically shut. You couldn't go there. And I feel like you've somehow managed to use that as a way to create something visual out of these metaphorically closed doors. So can you elaborate a little bit on how you managed to do that and how it worked within the series? And the other question is, do you feel like you know more now about your family history than you did before, or do you have more questions than when you started this work?
Thanks, Laura. To the first questions, I didn't know at all what to expect when I first went there, and I didn't know if I could enter the places, what I would find, and I also discovered places I had no idea were existing. And so I think it was quite spontaneous, the way the pictures I took are reflecting this barrier, the fact that I could not enter, or that I always feel a little bit an outsider. It was not really calculated. It was much more instinctive. Instinctive, yeah. And to your second question, I definitely know much more about my family. I always heard the same story from my mother, which were very little since I'm young. She always tells the same 10 stories about her childhood and nothing more. And then I discovered a country. I lived and people. I lived in many countries. I said at the beginning, and Egypt was not part of my story. And now I feel it's part of my story.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sandra.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Well done.
Thank you, Rocco.
So the next up is Amanda. Welcome, Amanda.
Awesome. Hi, guys. Okay, so due to the inaccuracies of streaming live video and audio, I chose to pre-record this presentation. Hope that is okay with you all. just want to check something real fast. Yep. Okay, here we go. Hi, my name is Amanda Witt. I'm in Los Angeles, California. When I began this class with you, I had no idea what I would make. In fact, I only knew the materials from which I would use to create, those being my family's unedited and immeasurably large archive. For the purpose of this presentation, I will focus on 18 years. The title of the project is In Medias Res. This Latin term refers to an effective tool narrators use to tell stories that begin somewhere in the middle. I imagine participants engaging with this mixed media exhibition in medias res. I'm designing the following: displayed video monitors looping in sync via audio channel, one interactive device connected to headphones. Its contents show an inside view into my editing studio timeline in which participants can engage directly with the media, as well as a designated space for specially printed photos. I will discuss the intent and purpose behind these two interactive experiments after the video portion of this presentation. The heart of this project is about generational identity and how we construct our sense of self both through and in spite of the perceptions of others.
Where is Amanda? Amanda, please. Amanda? Amanda? Okay, Amanda. Amanda, what are you doing over there, Amanda? Amanda? Amanda, can we? Amanda is feeding. Amanda!
Amanda's 7th birthday.
Amanda? Hi, Amanda. All right, Amanda.
Wait.
Amanda?
Amanda, be quiet.
Amanda? All right, Amanda. Amanda? Who are you talking to, Amanda? Are you happy now? Has it been a good beginning of your birthday, Amanda?
Amanda.
Good morning, Amanda. Do you want to say anything for the camera?
No. Amanda, you're next. You turn this way. Amanda.
Nice hat, Amanda. Amanda, you like holding your cousin?
You never bug me, do you, Amanda?
Keep going, Amanda. We'll check back with you in about an hour, okay? Don't stop. Amanda, out of the way, please.
Amanda, get out of the way.
Amanda,
Yeah, Amanda.
please. Amanda, get lost, okay?
Here comes Miss Happiness. Don't talk to Amanda. Very slowly. Only very slow, Amanda. Dear Amanda.
Amanda.
Amanda, sit down. Amanda, stand right there.
Amanda, wait. What is it, Amanda? Amanda? Nice smile, Amanda. Real nice smile.
Amanda! Don't you fall, Amanda. Careful with that hand, Amanda.
Amanda, you ready? Amanda. That's Amanda. Amanda's in there, too. Hey, nice hat, Amanda. I like your hat, Amanda. Gotta pull a little harder, Amanda.
Amanda, no. Amanda, what happened?
Dear Amanda. Dear Amanda.
She finished this.
Amanda, baby.
Amanda.
A little orange juice?
Amanda's got to open.
Amanda. Amanda, what did you mean by that? Oh, Amanda.
Amanda put her head in the way.
That beautiful face.
Amanda, it was great done.
Amanda? And Amanda is overlooking.
Amanda, I put an apple. Look, Amanda, when you get in the car.
Amanda, anything you want to say? All right, Amanda.
Amanda, you got any comments?
What is that Amanda has? Amanda got a couple presents too. Amanda's got her brand new boots.
I really get a picture of Amanda over there. So when Amanda turns the computer.
Just save me a piece, Amanda.
This is Amanda's birthday.
Amanda's favorite part.
It's the only beer it's ever going to see, too. Right, Amanda?
Amanda, I know you can say goodbye to me.
These are inverted projections sped in chronological order at 150,000 frames per second. This timeline is a visual representation of the size of my archives. I imagine the projection running over words such as half asleep, half awake, half alive in between states. I had the strangest dream, we say, trying to remember it all day. Editing our own versions we make, recording over pre-recordings for memory's sake. Can our versions coexist, or will we erase what was once inside? In this tape, pre-recorded, we are sorted. Pressed, rewind 1,000 times in search of my own worth. Did it mean something, Or was it just a dream's rebirth?
When was I born?
About
8:03 in the morning.
in about 7 hours, or no, 11 hours ago. Something which you will always remember. Can the camera see the snow in June? Isn't it incredible? I mean, it's just like snowflakes falling on a windless winter evening. Amazing. Amazing. To the tune of No, the world wants you.
Okay, it's not. Oh God. Okay, now it's kind of. Okay, now I can see. Is that kind of weird or not?
4, 3,
Anyway,
2,
I know.
1.
We are
Me
in
first.
the tunnel.
And we're at the end of the tunnel. Anything you want to say, Bess? What? Rick? Well, at least we are all in agreement. What a day.
Well, there he is. Satan himself. Yeah, that's him. Well, there goes. Maybe he'll crash. I start it right now.
Jen, take a panoramic view.
Hello, I am. I've got it right. It's on right now.
You get it? Are you getting it?
Yeah.
Do the guys.
Okay, can I turn it off now, Annie?
Anniversary Man on the Moon. 25 years ago today, Major and I were watching the moon landing.
Okay, can I turn it off now?
No, that's not a very good picture. She'll take another
Can I
one.
turn it off now?
I'm on camera, holding the camera myself.
Yeah.
Oh yes, what a day, what a life. This is heaven. It's time. Happy birthday.
He has nothing to say right now. Maybe you gotta open your eyes just a little bit.
When was I born?
About
8:03 in the morning.
in about 7 hours, or no, 11 hours ago.
A portion of this exhibition is dedicated to the complex relationship I have with the inheritance of the physical form of these archives. Due to the advancement of technology and social media, the traditional home movie format is extinct. Our computers provide us now virtual clouds and virtual trash bins. Those bins even play a pleasant poof sound when contents are emptied. I carry a heavy weight not knowing how to empty my own archival content. The family photographs have been reprinted on plantable flower-seeded paper. Under the display, I imagine a small bin filled with soil. Participants are encouraged to take a photo and drop it into the bin. Additionally, the editing studio timeline is a way for viewers to experience a non-linear digital archive. They can arrange the clips within the timelines by dragging or deleting. These experiments are separate from the main video monitor portion, which is continuously on loop and not interactive. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you, Laura and Rocco, and all you amazing people I have been on this absolutely remarkable journey with.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Do you still have something to say?
No.
Okay. Okay. Now to my interrogation then. No, it's really one question. Well, actually maybe two questions, because obviously you've gone on quite a journey, and I know it's been a really difficult one for you. One, because of the amount of footage that you had, which is like hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Thousands and
thousands of hours. So, and I know you've addressed it a little bit in your presentation, but can you sort of guide us to how you arrived at this final way? And I know it's not really final because you could still shape it and reshape it and do so many things with it, but how you arrived at that. So expanding on that a little bit. And I think one thing we never really quite addressed is, why is it important for you to bring this to an audience? Because it's your own family story. So if you can address that, that would be great.
Those are big questions, Laura. I'm gonna be as quick, as concise as I can. First question, I had so much, I had to research so much. I started to realize I needed a visual map for what this archive looked like. There were only, like, words didn't translate, like the number, like zeros before or after a number. So I put all the footage chronologically in order, sped that up, and took roughly around 3,000 hours of footage, which then gave me about a 30-minute timeline. But again, it was like a flash, right? 150,000 frames per second. And then from there, I would just go piece by piece by piece, like puzzle piece by puzzle piece. And then I created a timeline where then I started to pull out the moments, the memories, the elevated elevations, the peaks, the pits, everything in between, so much in between, right? So much mundane. And that's then how I started to like create these connections and create a narrative. And to answer your question number two, why, I have to say I've been chasing a feeling, like this feeling that obviously I want to create some meaning out of something that feels so alive, yet the physical form of these things are like in boxes in my closet and like live in my parents' home in the basement. And I've never seen anybody do something quite like I've never like really seen it. I've always been interested in it. I once used to do this as a living. I was an archivist and digitized material like years ago before you could just send it off somewhere. So like I have the hands-on like ability to process these things and digitize them myself. And I always thought, wow, this is like amazing to be able to look at someone's life and like bring it alive. And to me, to me, it just is fascinating. And again, this whole process has been like following a feeling, like explosions going off, like a door opens, a creative door, like I walk through it, I try it, you know, and it's just been incredible. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Congrats to you as well. Let's have Moa then. Welcome, Moa.
Thank you. All right, let's see if you can all see my screen now. Yes. All right. So my name is Moa. I am a Swedish photographer. And today I'm going to present my work that is called 4 Weeks a Year. And this work, my first intention was to create a book, and this book is what I will present to you today. And to build this book, basically, I used 3 different building blocks, if you will. The first one being the photographs that talk about my feeling, my personal feeling, and also portraying this feeling that I'm going to talk a bit more about later on. The second one being the research that I did. I did a lot of academic research about this specific topic that, again, I will talk a bit more about in a bit. And the third part being a survey, which would act as an inspiration for my photographs, but also to tell a story and create a narrative that will take the reader through this book. So without further ado, I will start to present the actual book. So as I mentioned, I am from Sweden, and Sweden is supposedly one of the happiest countries in the world. Yet it's also one of the countries that has the highest prevalence of seasonal affective disorder, or SAD for short. And in this percentage, I'm not an exception. I've been living for the past 3 years in Italy, back and forth between Italy and Sweden. And I had not been in Sweden for a very long time during winter. And 1 year I got home. And immediately it felt like I had hit a wall. I was burnt out. I stayed in bed for several days. I didn't know what to do, and I just couldn't stop crying. I didn't know why. And I'm a person that uses photography as a way of therapy and a way of giving myself purpose. So I picked up my camera and I went outside and I started taking photos of things around me. And after a while, I realized that these photos, they represented my state of mind that I was in during this time. And I started reading about seasonal affective disorder to better understand what it was. And it's a common misconception, I would say, that it's only related to the amount of sunlight that we have here in Scandinavia, because everyone knows that the further north you go, the darker the winters will get, but also the lighter the summers will be. But in my research, I also saw that there are reported cases of spring depression and the suicide rates going up in late spring and early summer. And I started questioning this, and I was thinking about why is that? If we think about sunlight and that's the only reason, then how come that people are depressed in spring, which is, according, like, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful times during the year. I love spring. It gives me a lot of energy, but some people, they wouldn't agree. And as I was reading more and more and I understood the complexity of this problem, I wanted to create a survey because I wanted to hear other people's experiences. I wanted to hear how other people were thinking about not just the project, but about the topic. And I wanted to create a safe space where anyone could talk about anything. And the 2 main questions that I asked was, if you look out the window right now, and this was in November, what do you feel? And how does it make you, like, what does it make you think? What does it make you see? And the second question was, if you think back to the past summer, what are you seeing? How does it make you feel? And these words, some were very similar. They were talking pretty much about the same thing. But some answers were not correlating with everyone, which really showed how the seasons really affect us in different ways. And one answer that really stood out to me is this one. The summer feels like a blur. A hazy beach between the cliffs in Bohuslän and a couple of seagulls can be heard in the background. The feeling is not pleasant at all, but rawer than the winter has been so far. luckily the summer became a blur. And with this survey and my research, I realized that seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, is not just a product of lack of sunlight in the winter and an excessive amount of sunlight in the summer. Because we all already know that other animals, they go into hibernation. Things are supposed to be slower in winter. Things are supposed to be faster in summer. Yet here in Sweden, we work our butts off all year just to take 4 weeks of vacation during summer. And for me, vacation is a time where you're supposed to rest. You're supposed to get energy. But since summer here is so short, those 4 weeks has to count. You have to do everything that you want to do. If there's sunlight, you have to go outside. You have to seize the sunlight. You have to see your friends. You have to go out, see all the concerts, party. It's midsummer. It's crawfish parties. That's it. And then summer ends, vacation is over, and your energy restores that you were supposed to replenish. Where are they now? And as things get darker, we get more tired, there's no energy left, we keep working, and we keep just barely breathing to work and save up vacation for the next year. And we do this every year, and we talk about it as it's normal, like I'm so tired right now, it's so dark, I don't have the energy to do anything. And then during summer, everyone's so stressed, because you have this conception that you have to do everything, and then we do it again, and we do it again, and we do it again. So this project started off as a project about seasonal affective disorder, but it turned out to be a project about a mismatch in our society and our biology that doesn't correlate. And unfortunately, I don't think that there's a solution to this. The only thing that we can do is to talk about it and be aware that this is the case. And hopefully by doing this, we will better be able to handle this issue that we have. And 2 things that I wanted to talk very briefly about. I've never really done self-portraits before this project, and it became a very big part of tying this project together. And last year, I was in a point with this project where I didn't really know where to go. And I started experimenting with putting myself in front of the camera, trying to act out my own feelings and also the feelings of the participants in the survey. And it became the final little piece for this project. And it's been an amazing journey. I've grown so much as a photographer working on this, and I'm really happy with the results. And I'm really, really happy to have had this opportunity to work with you, Laura, and you, Rocco, and like the whole group. It's been incredible. And lastly, the book that I've showed you, it has 52 spreads, just as the year has 52 weeks. And in the middle, I have 4 spreads that are dedicated to summer, and the rest is dedicated to winter and fall and earlier part of spring. And I'm thinking, I had this idea of when I print a book, that the book kind of goes in a loop, that all the pages are stuck together and you keep like turning the page, and at the end you will end up in the same place and the book never ends, because it is the cycle that we are living. And I wanted to give this idea a very simplistic, like a way to visually represent it, very simple. And it's this graph that I have in front of me right here. This graph, the concave one, it represents the hours that a full-time worker works in Sweden every month, going down in July and August. And this graph right here, the convex one, it's the total hours of sunlight that we have in every month. And yeah, that's it. This is my presentation, and thank you all so much for listening, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Moe. It's really nice to see the book, and I like your thoughts around sort of like this endless cycle that never ends. But I think one of the interesting things was creating this survey, which is quite an academic approach. And you've managed to marry that really well, in my opinion, with your visual sort of impressionistic approach to this work. And I just wanted to ask you, how did you manage to use the words and the content you gathered from this survey to feed your visual narrative and the thought process for the book? You touched on the portraits and how it informed your portraits, but maybe you can expand on that with the whole series.
So basically, I wasn't expecting the survey to give me as much as it did. But with the survey, I realized that a lot of people were feeling the same way as me. And in some way, they were describing my photos that I already had. And they also described photos that I hadn't taken yet. And by kind of pairing everything together in the book, it created this narrative that was still missing something. And that was the portraits that I took of myself. And then in the end, it turned out to be something that I didn't expect it to be, but it turned out so well, and I'm really happy that I actually put out the survey and I did that work. I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does. Yes, it definitely does. Do you see the book? Like, do you think this is finished now? Are you done? Are you ready to make this book, or do you think you want to work on it more?
I want to work on it a little bit more. There are some final touches. Today, I haven't showed you the end part of the book, which is both my statement that I've written. It's the research that I did, and it's the full survey, because of course I couldn't put everything in this book. And in the total survey, there were 5 questions, 2 of which were just talking about the topic in general. And I still wanted to include this. So everything is going to be included in text at the end of the book. So if the reader wants to, they can get even more information. And I also want to include links and numbers to different organizations that work to prevent depression and suicides, to give the book a purpose, not just to talk about it, but actually having a safe space to go to and to find help.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Noah. Congrats. The next one is Angela. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you. Hello. I'll try to share my screen. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Hello, my name is Angela Crosti. Thank you, Laura and Rocco, for having me here today. Just a few words about me. I'm an Italian photographer and writer based in London. My practice often revolves around youth, identity, and belonging. I'm interested in capture what my eyes can see and how I feel about it. I often use landscape and still life as metaphors to open a dialogue with the viewers and their interpretation. And I predominantly work with a medium format film camera. Now, without further ado, I will introduce you to my project, the inspiration and the motivation around it. It was last July 2022, when I was in Italy, that I heard the story of Alessia Pifferi, a 37-year-old Italian mom who left 18-month-old daughter to die of starvation. She abandoned her in her cot bed, once washed and changed. She left aside her a bottle of milk, and then she left for 6 days to reconcile with her partner and to try to have a future with him. This story captured my interest, and almost all the newspapers reported the same headline, highlighting she was a single mother. She left her for futile reason and to have a future with a partner. On top of this, for 6 days, nobody heard the little one crying for help. Nonetheless, this was the 3rd matricide that happened in Italy in just a couple of months, but the one that was and still is the most talked about, as apparently consciously acted. Moreover, discussion on this tragedy were largely broadcasted, as well as interviews talks, debate, most of them moderated by the mother's own lawyer. Since this day, and since that day, this anonymous woman with very few friends and almost unknown in the neighborhood at the periphery of Milan became the monster, the subject of spectacle, and the witch of such an atrocious crime. This news deeply affected me. At the point I felt the urge to understand, to research, and to identify myself with what she has been possibly going through, and reflect on how maternity could be seen and lived by some mothers as an experience that is far away from the poetic images and all the stereotype we are raised for, and we have been presented to. As for reference, there is this book that has been translated in many languages, and basically it talks about mothers who generate but are unable to take care, and they kill before getting killed. In my work, I have focused on the physical and psychological isolation and the dilemma between pursuing your own happiness and taking up the responsibilities. I have deliberately tried to build a distance, sequencing raw and more poetic images which reflect my feeling and that are still torn between empathy and horror. Through this process, I have revoked my personal feeling and experiences at the time my first daughter was just a few months old. The sense of loneliness, isolation, and the desperate need to find time for myself, time to exist as a person, time to have a life. And this sentence that I found on a book is still resonating a lot with my experience. So these are the images, and they are sequenced in the form of a book. The project is still a work in progress, and I'm not still shooting. I think the best way for me to present this project is to describe it first and explain you the approach I have taken. Then I will scroll down on my images in silence and let everyone experience them without my interference, giving some more information about the conceptual development of the project at the end of the slideshow. The title is You Are Everything to Me. And as I will introduce you to my imagery, I have also added to my work a brief sentence from Alessia's diary. This is her handwriting, and she wrote it in the first months when she was still where she is still in prison, but she is in confinement. And below there is the translation. I have also added her words as reported and made public by the news, declaration to journalists, and etc. I felt it was important to lead you in her word, to give her a voice, although she intentionally has no face in my series, as she represents the voice of many mothers in the world. My starting point was questioning motherhood as an expected role in a patriarchal vision, an institution and not a human relationship, which is under the constant scrutiny of moral rules and conservative oppressive ideology. This ideology, to me, is foremost the mythical vision of being a mother and prescribe you how you must behave and feel according to social conduct rules. Moreover, and this is rarely talked about, there are some mothers who are unable to bond with their own children. They wish they could take back the decision on having them and feel entrapped in this rule and its requirement. And ultimately they see their own maternity as an obstacle to their hope and happiness. Through the lens of my camera, I've been trying to understand this mother's feeling, be a mother myself, with the aim to shift the perception and question why these atrocities are happening, but are still mostly invisible until it's too late. With my imagery, I simply observe all the mothers that are having similar experiences, or silently struggle to cope, and they are mostly unseen by their family, friends, and institutions and communities. This project aims to depict this state of mind and the passage from the unconsciousness on not wanting a child to the finer and deeper state of awareness and detachment. So I'll start the images now. In developing this project and after researching about this, I've made some deliberate decisions. As an example, the color red is a distinctive background that symbolizes love, carnage, and rage. It also metaphorically represents the act of giving birth, that in this case of this story, did not happen in a hospital, but instead it happened to be in the partner's home bathroom. And so you might recall the image of the basin and the cherry. Also, the trees become a recurrent theme in this work as meaning of balance and stability, while still life and landscape can be all seen as metaphorical portraits and represent the psychological inner state to open a dialogue with the viewers and their interpretations. Ultimately, my aim was to depict motherhood as a mantis, as a predator, and as a prey. In developing my project, I've also decided to collaborate with my first daughter. Born at the time I had just moved to London. At the time, I was a stranger in this city, and there were days where I did struggle. I've missed the support of my family, my sister, and my friend. She is performing for me in front of my camera. Last but not least, I have collected response to this tragedy, and they were all published either on Instagram or to YouTube or to the social. This first page is just an extract of the answer that were posted after a psychology posted an article about monstrous motherhood, and she started this conversation saying, "Sorry to see that are women the ones who wrote the most vicious comments." And these are an extract of some of the replies. Some of them are very empathic, some of them are very strong. And also I have reproduced some of the comments people have posted on YouTube after the funeral of this little girl was live streamed and is still available to watch on YouTube and other channels. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. That was beautiful. I have two questions. So the first one is, I feel like time is really present in your images. I mean, time is present in photography in general, but I think in your photographs in particular, I feel like I'm arriving at a moment that just happened or something that's about to happen. So I just wanted to ask you, how important is time for you generally, but also specifically with this body of work?
Sure. It is important to me, especially after the research I've run, because these experiences are not enough talk about, but if you dig into it, you find numbers of this crime are rising. And so for me, time is time about to talk about and approach and deal with it and sort of advocate for more support and more attention to this. And it's also something for me personal, because every story is personal at some point. And the fact that I have involved my daughter, the first one, for me is also, it's a state of, okay, I'm over it. I'm over this state, and it's a little bit liberating. So it's sort of confronting my memory and my experience in the past and say, okay, in the future, and now I sort of they still resonated to me, but they are in the past now.
I think this leads to my second question, because I feel like the mother, the main protagonist in this story, I feel like you're having this silent conversation through photography with her about motherhood and responsibility. And I'm wondering, well, it's a two-part question. How much of this is about you as a mother, and how much is it about her? And do you see this as an artistic project or body of work, or do you see it as a social, political body of work? I mean, is there a genre, or does that not matter for you?
I think it's more a journalistic, but also a social work. And in my mind, I will use this project to open a conversation about this. So in my mind, I would like to build up a sort of virtual space to open the debate. But also, if I think about how to exhibit my work, an idea would be also to exhibit some images and ask the people to respond about these images, because I want a collaborative approach, if this answers the question.
Yeah, it definitely does. Thank you so much. Thanks for
you.
sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Congrats. The next one will be Michaela. Welcome, Michaela.
Okay, hello. Let me share my screen. Do you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So my name is Michaela Nagyidaiova. I'm a photographer. I'm based between Bratislava and Vienna, and I have a terrible cold today. So if I start randomly coughing in the middle of my presentation, I'm sorry, but I warned you. In the work that I kind of like to make, I tend to focus on topics of migration, identity, or like looking for one's identity, journey, roots, and the ever-changing topographies of Central and Eastern Europe. The project that I'll be sharing with you today is called Transient Ties, and I began making this project in 2019. It was my MA project when I was still living in London, and then it got completely on hold because of COVID and many other things. So the material that I'm showing today is everything that I had created for the project in the past year. And it's still ongoing, so I plan to create more. Okay. So I would like to start with the selection of film stills. This project, not only it's made up from photographs, but also I'm making a short film. The film was shot in Greece and Slovakia. And that is because once Greece was a starting point of a migration route walked by Lena or Eleni, who was forced to escape her homeland. She was never repatriated to her native environment in northern Greece, and so reconnected with her Macedonian minority into which she was born. So basically, Transient Ties tries to kind of analyze the process of cutting ties with one's birthplace, and then adopting to a completely new environment, which kind of continues to occur to political refugees and migrants. So the project visually unearths the culture and environment in Greece that Lena or Eleni was stripped of, and the one in former Czechoslovakia that she had to embrace. So to continue with the film stills, I think I am planning for the film to be at least 10 minutes long with sound. I do need to finish it though. But basically, like, the film is kind of inspired by, well, Lena or Eleni, who is my grandmother. And I think I was just always very intrigued by her story ever since I was a little child. Whenever we went to Greece for a holiday, I never could understand why she could communicate at least a little bit with, Greek people. And then the older I grew, the more questions I had. And then basically that kind of started this whole collaboration when I started my photography degree in 2018 or 19. And right now, I think I would like to show you an excerpt from the short film that I'm making. It's a very raw preview, but there is sound, and you can kind of hopefully grasp the atmosphere that I'm trying to go with. Okay. So if you can't hear or see, just let me know and I'll fix it.
Elena Gáborová, Bratislava. Narodená v roku 1944 v obci Antartikon po makedonsky Želevo, okres Florína, Grécko. List pre ministerstvo vnútra Slovenskej republiky. Vec, žiadosť o udelenie štátneho občianstva. V zmysle vašej požiadavky a listu zo dňa 2.12.1992 vám oznamujem, že nevlastním žiaden rodný list ani doklad o gréckom štátnom občanstve. Do Československa som bola dovezená ako sirota prostredníctvom Československého Červeného kríža s transportom detí v roku 1948. Nie som si vedomá, že by som vlastnila nejaké špeciálne doklady. V Grécku a ani v rodnej dedine Antartikon po makedonsky Želevo som od roku 1948 nikdy nebola a nemám tam príbuzných ani známych. S nikým tam neudržujem písomný styk. V Československej federatívnej republike som od svojich.
Okay, so it's a very rough cut. But yeah, that's kind of my plan for the next couple of months. So I'm going to continue shooting here in Slovakia and finalize the sound and subtitles and everything. And also hire a colorist for the video because now it's not colored. But to continue with the story and with the photographs, so basically my grandmother's, or Lena, as I have been calling her my whole life, her uprootedness was a result of Greek civil war that started in 1946 and ended in 1949. That was fought between monarchists and communists in Greece, and it was heavily supported by the UK and the US, as these Western countries didn't want Greece to be another country falling under communism that was spreading across Europe at the time. But of course, the communist side was also receiving support from countries such as Albania, Bulgaria, and some other countries in the former Yugoslavia. So due to the Greek civil war, thousands of children were uprooted and had to escape their homes in Greece, and they were kind of scattered around different countries in the world, but mostly placed into children's houses in Central and Eastern Europe, which is how my grandmother ended up in former Czechoslovakia. So former Czechoslovakia accepted up to 13,000 children, and then many of them have been repatriated back to their environment, but Lena has never been repatriated back since the conflict, the war completely torn the bonds between her and her siblings and family members. So she basically kind of had to create her own life in the former Czechoslovakia. So for example, I started using some archival materials in this project. On the right side, there is a letter written by Lena that was sent to the Interior Ministry of Slovakia when she was applying for Slovak citizenship in 1992. This is also what she is reading out in the video that I'm making. It kind of serves as the sound for the video. Lena was basically considered stateless as she had lost her Greek citizenship due to being a political refugee. All the political refugees coming from Greece, either Greek or Macedonian, had lost their citizenships. And it is paired with an archival map of Greece. She comes from the region of Macedonia, close to Albanian border. And I think visually in this project, I'm playing around with, I don't know, I was trying to have these soft aesthetics maybe, and playing around with topics of bonds and family and how fragile those bonds actually can be, as well as, you know, the land in Slovakia where she lives right now and the land in Greece that she doesn't know very well. So this is an archival image of her birthplace in the mountainous region of northern Greece. The village is called Antartico, and on the right side, there is an archival image of hers that she has in her house. The surroundings of the village. And basically, like, I've been collaborating with her whilst we kind of together explore her identity and both the relationship between cultural heritage and displacement. And on the left side, it's an article from a Slovak newspaper published in 1948 when my grandmother left Greece. The article is titled 12,000 Greek Children, and it describes the arrival of political refugees in Czechoslovakia. So it is showcased here with some other keepsakes that my grandma has in her house that remind her of Greece, where she was born, and the country where she lives until today. So for example, there is a very old Czechoslovak stamp that I took out from a letter that she sent to her mom that was at the time living in Canada, and the letters are from her mother, written in Greek. So yeah. These are just some images of Greece. And on the right side, that's another archival image. So my grandmother hates being photographed. So I'm trying to insert her in the project by with different means. I also plan to photograph her a little bit more, but this is an archival image of her where she visits one of the children's houses in Czech Republic, where she used to live. And these are some of the images taken in Bratislava. So on the right side, I don't know, I tried being a little bit lighthearted with this topic. And that's my grandma's liquor collection that she has from Greece. And I basically started photographing it in her house. At first, I thought I would start using some objects that she owns, but this was a pretty nice idea. She doesn't drink too much, but she just collects these liquor bottles from Greece for some reason. So I thought I would include that. And yeah, I mean, the whole project kind of tries to talk about, as I said, like the journey and migration routes and how Greece kind of remains a very mysterious place to her and my whole family, to be honest. So I think that's it. I don't have anything else. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michaela. That was really powerful. Looking at your project, I realized how heavily layered it is. So we have sound, moving images, stills, self-portraits, other portraits, text. How do you make sense of all of that? And I know it's basically asking you to summarize the last 8 months that we spent working on this, but I want you to sort of maybe break it down. How have you managed to make sense, and how did you decide to prioritize certain aspects of such a personal, I think all work is personal, but personal body of work in order to make sense of it for yourself first, but also for an audience?
Right, that's a very good question. I'm still working on it, to be honest. No, but I think I came into the masterclass. So there was another version of the project, the all one that I did for my MA, and that was basically just photographs and archival images. And I didn't like that because I thought it's too boring. It doesn't capture what I wanted to capture. And I came into the masterclass thinking, okay, I just want to play around and I want to do everything. And I just want to do, not everything, but I just want to try to utilize these different mediums and different elements and try to bring them all together, whilst kind of keeping the visual style roughly similar. So I think the video will serve its own purpose, and the photographs with the archival material are kind of there to support the video, because the video will really go in more deeply into Lena's life. And then the photos are basically going to be, I don't want to call they're going to be less important than the video. I don't want to say that, but they're just going to serve a different purpose. They're going to, I think, showcase more of the research behind the project, and if the viewer will want to pay attention and maybe spend more time, they could maybe read the archival materials or just kind of decipher what the photos will say, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Congrats also to you. We have our last speaker for today, which is Maryam. Welcome, Maryam.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I was late, but I'm here. Okay, let's try to do this. So, can you see anything?
We could see your desk. Yes, we could see your screen now.
Okay. Where is, okay. So I just want to say before I start that this, in a way, is not a complete body of work. And I think as it progressed, I kind of started to experiment a lot more with it. But so it's not the full thing for me. One, it's a body of work that I can see continuing for in many different ways, but what I was working on now is also not a full thing. So in a way, I kind of, for this presentation, I kind of recreated it as a presentation for now. So this body of work is a self-portrait titled My Body Cries, Tears of Beauty. And it's reflected through a journey into my body and its layered emotional states. The idea for the project was born after a surgery that I'd had on my lower back last year. Leading up to the surgery, I had been unable to move for months. The lack of movement and the inability to express the frustration that came with it to anyone that was not personally experiencing it drove me to find any way to express what was going on inside my body. What I have been trying to do is to recreate the strong connection that I felt towards my body as a unique space during that time. This period is therefore a memoir, this project, is therefore a memoir of sorts. A memoir of that period, an internal portrait of a female body, a Jordanian Muslim Arab, aged 32. So the first photo that you see is a self-portrait of me in a position that I constantly took to relieve myself of any pain in my lower back when everything was happening. For months, I lay like this on my side, almost naked, struggling with the extreme heat. And in a way, this pose looks like a classic Odalisque photo, an Oriental woman lounging in what could be perceived as a seductive pose. And while this photo only shows my external body, I thought of it as a map initially to show the points of pain in my body. For now, there's like the main point of pain, which I've highlighted. And through this point of pain, I'm going to take you inwards into this journey inside the deeper layers of my body. So the period of my life between April and January 2021 was quite intense, both internally and in terms of the events going on around me, both in my personal life and also in terms of the political situation in Jordan, where I'm from. In May of 2021, Israel attacked Gaza and the Palestinian territories, Jordan's closest neighbor. It was an intense atmosphere that my highly sensitive body could not handle. One aspect of growing up around war that no one brings up is the psychosomatic impact that it has on oneself. Having grown up in a war region, I was all too used to seeing images of destruction. Like many others around me, I internalized psychological pain in my physical body. My nervous system could no longer handle the assault on its system. And just like the bombs that were dropping left, right, and center all around, my nervous system launched its own assault into the territory of my body. Electricity shocks firing from the lower back down my left leg, out of my toes. Both occurrences were excruciating, to say the least. So I created this video to kind of show how war is internalized in my body. So it started off with the war, but this body of mine transformed into a conduit, carrying my feelings and emotions in all of its different parts. The intensity of both my physical and emotional pain pushed me towards a very spiritual space. Yes, it was true that I was unable to physically move, but internally, I began a journey into my own bodily territories. I picked up the different signals and sensed its different layers, with its different systems that are all branched into one another like a group of interdependent forest species. I became hyper-aware of the feeling of existing, sound of my own body, the blood pumping inside, the muscles contracting, and the sound of my heartbeat. And while I was trying to show this, I guess in a way it kind of developed into something a bit surreal. So I was playing a bit with Photoshop to show this feeling of like an internal and external body. Deep within this totality, I felt my soul and my body like a house for that soul, and a vehicle through which to connect with God. The more pain I felt, the more I disassociated from the external world and went inwards, where the presence of light within my body became apparent. Where I grew up, it's normal to believe in the light of God. The Quran describes God as a light. It says in Surah An-Nur, it says, Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. His light is like a niche in which there's a lamp. The lamp is in a crystal. The crystal is like a shining star lit from the oil of a blessed olive tree. Located neither to the east nor the west, whose oil would almost glow, even without being touched by fire. Light upon light, Allah guides whoever He wills to His light. So I was thinking of how to turn my X-rays into lights and to turn these into talismans. But I like the idea here of showing my internal body gradually through this, and then turning this somehow into light, into like a light box that turns on and kind of reveals the light within. But this still needs to come together somehow. And so in this journey, I basically entered a mystical space, I would say. And because I was raised in Islam, so it's more related to Islamic mysticism. And in Islamic mysticism, this idea is referred to as wahdat al-wujud, or the unity of existence. And it's the moment when the link between the hidden and the manifest becomes clear, and where a connection is felt between all living things, with the body as a space in which humans take that journey between the two worlds, the cosmic and the material. In my quest to understand myself better, I learned that bodies exist in order that the spirit be manifested. It's only through their attachment to bodies that souls are known and conceived. I started to read more about some Sufi scholars. So Ibn al-Arabi, a Sufi scholar from the 12th century and a big believer in the idea of the unity of existence, has written extensively on the metaphysics of the body. And I found a paragraph by him that kind of describes what I was feeling at the time. In a way, it was kind of like a loss of, yes, I was in my body, but I kind of lost that space. It was kind of just a sense of connection and oneness with everything. So I was trying to find a way to show that. And this text gave me this sense. So it says, and I tried to recreate the text that I'm going to read through this photo. It says, as for the correspondence between the human body and the macrocosm, the bones are likened to mountains, blood to the water, either running like rivers or static like the sea, parts of the body to earth, fertile and barren. The spirit which illuminates the body according to this symbolism is like the sun created in the outer world, the intelligence like the moon, and the five senses like the five stars. Parts of the human body also correspond to the worlds of heaven. So this is me in a state of like full delirium, but completely enjoying it, in total pain, but somehow enjoying it. In this state of delirium and pain, I began to connect with the deepest parts of my body, myself. I could no longer hear or see anything other than the pain, and I resorted to God as the medicine. The voice was loud and clear, and it told me to surrender. Until at some point, it all came crashing down, and I could no longer hold it all, and the pain had to be extracted. At the time, I remember my boyfriend telling me that the sensation of something being taken out of one's body is one that you mentally cannot quite grasp. A large disc between my two lower vertebrae, L4, L5, was extracted from my body on the 29th of October, 2021 in Portugal. It was an emergency surgery and the most physically painful experience of my life, but also the most beautiful. And I worked on a video to kind of show that journey of surrendering, I guess.
فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. So when I left the hospital on the 1st of November, the Portuguese were celebrating the Day of Death. In mysticism, it's believed that on these days, the veil between life and death, or the other world, gets thinner, and the portal between the two worlds becomes more apparent. In Portugal, it's the day when people pay their respects to their deceased relatives. A part of me died in that time with that operation. That part of me that was oversensitive to any external stimulation. Science also confirms this. I was told that under anesthesia, where the nervous system shuts down, the body releases DMT, which is a death chemical. So it believes that it's dying and it releases the death chemical. But I woke up eventually, and my spinal cord was corrected. Sensations and emotions, my sensations and emotions were altered, and with it, my memories and reactions. After the pain had been extracted, I remember feeling like my emotions had nowhere to go. Normally, they went to that excruciating point in my lower back, but suddenly there was nothing there to carry them. But it was a rebirth, a certain lightness that has come over, which I cannot fully explain even now, several months after the event. Sufis often use symbols to reflect on the idea of existence. And one such symbol is the rose, which is meant to portray a man's journey or a human's journey on earth. Each petal opens to reveal a new experience. It blooms and then it begins to wither and die. Post-surgery, new petals were growing. So I tried these last two, I'm still experimenting with, but I like the idea, oh, sorry. So the last, this one, I tried to, I really like this footage of the rose opening, and I've always wanted to use it somehow. I don't think it's fully like fits properly in this sense, but I mean, it communicates the idea. So I think in general, the project needs slight editing, but I will end it here. I was doing something else, but we can talk about it later.
Thank you so much, Maryam. That was really thought-provoking and beautiful. You took us on a spiritual journey, a personal journey, and I think a journey that's still unexplored. We're still going there together. One of the things that really resonated with me, and I think is sort of the center of the work, is the body as a conduit for conflict, trauma, and pain, but also the idea of healing. So I'm interested in how would you showcase that to an audience, and how would you bring that journey to an audience? Because you're working with videos, you're working with stills. I think words are very important as well. How do you bring all these things together?
I mean, this has been the most difficult part of it. I think now with the addition for this present, I think this is a body of work that will adapt to any medium that is, like, let's say it's a book, it's going to take a different form from any other. So I have to keep shifting it in a way. So for this presentation, I was able to speak. The way I saw it was through different installations, if it was an exhibition. And I thought the first image of my body, the first thing, I kind of saw that as a map. And then that would lead to different parts. Maybe there would be some kind of a text. If you go to an exhibition, it would take you to, it would have some kind of a description next to it with the same text that I wrote. I like the idea of keeping it personal, but I also like the idea of constantly changing it, like not having something static, because anyway, as I move along, I'm discovering like different parts of my own body, different things that I want to say about it. And I was thinking of, like, as a body of work, I like that it's going deep into the layer. It's kind of like a self-portrait, but I thought it would be nice to do it, like, this is 2021. Maybe it would be nice to do something related to 2022 and then kind of keep going with it, but just like a journey into myself, but through photography, but through my body. I don't know how to reply to that. It's just like happening as I go along, but it's not easy, I would say.
Thank you. No, I think it's you're still finding, but you found some answers, and there's answers, I think, that you're trying to find now. But thank you so much, Maryam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maryam, and thank you, everyone. Congrats, everyone. We reached the end of the talks for today and the end of the program officially. as said before, all the participants will have the possibility to showcase their project in a collective show in Bologna, Italy at the end of November, which we will curate together with Laura. Has been a great and emotional journey, 8 very long months. We had time to discover more about your interests, your project, and yourself, because all of you brought on the table very personal story and approached them in a very unique and peculiar way. So I want to thank once again you all for being with us, to trust us and Laura for this program. And I want to thank, of course, all the audience that follow us today and will watch this record in the future. And but a special thanks goes to Laura, because without her great effort, extra energy, this program was not going to be as successful as it has been. I'm sure that all participants will always remember those weeks, meetings for a bit of time. And yeah, has been great. Has been a great journey. I don't know.
Thanks, Rocco. Can I say some last things?
Of course, you can. Yeah, you can close the call. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm actually serendipitously sitting today in exactly the same place I was sitting on the very first day when we did the introductions, and I really can see this full circle. And it's amazing to see how far everyone has come. The confidence and the sense of authorship that I've heard in all of your voices and your works today doesn't surprise me, knowing you and having known you over the last 8 months, but it humbles me because I really can see the progress that we've all made together, and it makes me feel very proud and very happy to have been part of this journey. And I was only here to sort of handhold you throughout it. We had some amazing discussions. I grew and you guys grew as well. So it was really, really great to sit here today and just listen to you guys, be authors and be who you are and present your work. And I feel really grateful that PhMuseum made me part of this, that you guys made me part of your journey. And yeah, I'm very happy. And thank you to everybody for tuning in, but to you guys in particular for your participation, because it wouldn't be the same without you. You bring the energy always. It wouldn't be the same without you. So thanks.
Thank you, Laura. So again, thanks everyone. The third edition of Criticae, the online documentary photography masterclass, will start again in October. Laura will be co-hosting the main tutorship with Max Pinkers. Applications are open now, so I will share again the link in the chat. So I invite you to check it out, and yeah, to discover a new project and new authors in the next future. Thanks again, everyone, and hope to see you soon in Bologna. Bye.